Okay, so welcome to the part 11 tutorial for LWAP. In this tutorial I'm going to cover view composers. This is something that's not actually done by a lot of people using Laravel, which is kind of strange because it's a very useful practice. So view composers basically allow you to assign variables and information to views without using a controller. So the idea behind this is you use view composers alongside controllers to maybe slim down the logic in your controllers, or if you've got logic for views that's not really ideal to be passed around in controllers through inheritance or external methods, and it's just a lot cleaner to actually use view composers. So in this tutorial I'm just going to create a view composer to set the title tag in any of the pages I'm using with the core layout. As you can see at the moment there's no title tag in there. So what I'm going to do, you can't actually generate view composers like you would most other files with the php artisan make command. So in the Laravel documentation there's actually an example that you can copy. So I'm going to use that code for my view composer. So the traditional folder that it's recommended to put them in is the app http and then a view composers folder. So I'm just going to create that folder now. Oops, try that again. So view composers. There we go. Right, so I'm going to create a file called layoutcomposer.php, and then I'm going to stick this code that pasted from the website in there. As usual, I'm going to change the namespace by just appending the package on the front, since ultimately I'm copying the Laravel directory structure, so when I'm referencing files all I need to do is append that on. I'm not going to use a repository, that's going to be in a separate tutorial. I don't want to overcomplicate this part. So getting rid of that and then renaming profile composer to layout composer. So you can see with this basic example it's passing a variable through of count, trying to count a number of records, but I'm going to set a title variable with the string that I want to use as the website title tag in the layout. So I'm just going to do my website, save that, and then the only part that we need to do now is in the service provider. We need to basically make sure that the layout view is being attached to this view composer. So I'm just going to copy the namespace, stick that in the use section, and then jumping back into the documentation, there is basically a line that you can add onto a service provider to do this. So this would be this command here. So if I just use view, because that's the class you need to rely on to register view composers, and if I just copy this line, and I'm basically going to put this bit in between the load commands and the publish commands. You can technically stick this anywhere in the service provider, but this just seems to make more sense to me personally. So the first parameter is the file name of the view using dot syntax. So we're just going to replace this with, if we look at resources, views, layouts, we can see we're using basic.blade.php. So with the packages prefix, then we will do layouts and then basic. And then the second parameter is the view composer class. So since we're already using the layout composer up here, we can actually stick this straight in and then use this special referencing property class. So that'll basically serve the same as the example, but the syntax is just a lot shorter and easier to understand. So with that in place, if I go to the layout now and set up a title tag, and then load in the title variable, if I reload the page now, then you can see the title tags updated with my website, which is good. And all this without having to actually put anything in the controller, and I can reuse this on any page that uses the layout. So it's very useful for multiple scenarios. This is just one instance I can think of. I'll probably expand upon this in future. So that's it for this tutorial.